Alright, ladies and gentlemen, today we have ourselves a pretty big video on our hands. Today we're going to be going over the newest news in Destiny 2. With the most recent TWAB post being posted, Bungie ended up talking about new Nightfall playlist weapons and a bunch of news on transmogrification. Some of it good and some of it bad, so we're going to have a lot of opinions in today's video because I have a lot that I want to share. Before we do jump into it though, I'd just like to mention that my G Fuel code NUT, is 30% off on the website right now. If you guys have ever been interested in G Fuel, link in the description if you guys do want to go to the website and pick some of it up. 100% of the proceeds made with my code go straight to St. Jude Children's Hospital. So if you've been wanting to try G Fuel, you've been wanting to get a pretty good discount on it, then you can use code NUT at checkout and then get yourself some epic gamer juice. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the video and let's talk about this newest news that has come with Destiny 2. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, because it's a very light paragraph that Bungie mentions before talking about transmog. They end up saying, before we move on to some juicy details about armor synthesis, we want to give a quick PSA about the future of Nightfall weapons. They say next season, 3 new legendary weapons will be added to the Nightfall rotation, which will also receive the Adept treatment when Grandmasters become available. As such, Palindrome, Shadow Price, and the Swarm will be taking a hiatus for the first half of the season. When they return, all 3 will be available as potential post-game rewards when completing Nightfalls on featured weeks. So I guess these weapons are basically going to be put on the back burner as a potential drop at the end of a Nightfall, and then these 3 new weapons are going to be the main squeeze that you're practically guaranteed to get every single time that you actually do a Nightfall. Wanted to quickly mention that because that was in the TWAB, but now let's move on over to the main squeeze of today's video, and that is actually transmog. Now, for those guys that do not know what transmog basically allows you to take the look of an armor piece and apply it to pretty much any armor piece in the game. Let's say that you have this helmet that you really like the look of, but the armor stats are absolutely garbage compared to another one. You can actually transmog the look of that helmet and put it on the helmet that you have really good stats with, and basically you get the best of both worlds. You get good stats and you get the look that you want. Everybody wins. So let's go ahead and talk about how transmog is going to work in Destiny and how Bungie is going to be going about it. So the first thing they mention is the basics. How exactly will transmog work in Destiny? They say that whenever you're starting to transmog an armor piece, you're going to end up defeating enemies to earn a new material called Synth Strand, and upon earning 150, you will then go to the tower and meet 801. You will then spend the Synth Strand that you just got on bounties, and when those bounties are completed, you will then earn Synth Cord. The bounty examples include 5 different categories. You got things like Vanguard, Crucible, Gambit, Destinations, and Raids and Dungeons. You'll have stuff like completing playlist strikes using certain subclasses, getting points in Nightfalls, capturing zones in Crucible, yada yada. You guys can see on screen. Those are just some examples of how these bounties are going to work. Now, once you get the Synth Cord, you will then convert the Synth Cord at the loom in the tower to receive something called Synth Weave. And Synth Weave is used to convert an unlocked armor appearance that is of legendary quality or lower from your collections. You can convert it into an armor appearance, aka a universal ornament, and then you can apply it to any of the legendary armor that you have. Now, how often can you do this to transmog armor? Well, if you thought that transmog was going to be a fun little grind that's gonna last all season long, then you're dead wrong, because Bungie is limiting how often we can transmog our gear on a seasonal basis. So for the beginning of transmog, aka next season, we're going to be given 20 pieces of armor that we can transmog per class, meaning 60 armor pieces in total. We're going to be able to earn a total of 20 Synth Weave per class. So 20 Synth Weave equals 20 pieces of armor. This is on a per class basis, meaning that we will have a total of 60 armor pieces by the end of it if you end up grinding it all out. Now, every season after next season, you will only be able to get 10 pieces of armor per class, which means 2 armor sets for each class per 3-month period or per season. This is a red flag, okay? This outright is a pretty big red flag. Now, I get it, right? I totally get it. Bungie has to make money. We're gonna get into Eververse in a minute, okay? Because Eververse is definitely tied into this. But dude, come on. You're gonna limit our grinding, right? You're gonna limit this fun little side hustle, this fun little side grind whenever nothing else is really going on in the game. You're gonna limit us to only 2 armor sets per class per 3 months. I honestly want to know the math on how long it would take at this rate to transmog every single armor set in the game. Now, for me personally, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. All right, for me personally, this is not going to affect me in the biggest way possible. For the most part, I'm not constantly switching my look around and everything like that. Once I find an armor set that I personally like, or an armor combination or whatever, chances are I'm going to stick with it for a few months at a time, you know? I don't really change my appearance all that much. So honestly, what Bungie's doing, especially next season, giving us 20 pieces per class, you know, 4 armor sets per class, you know, that's not going to affect me in the biggest way, because that's plenty for me personally. But for other people out there that have especially been waiting on this since Destiny 1, I don't like the way that this is set up. I don't like being time gated per season. I don't like that idea, right? The idea of being time gated per season on how much you can grind this stuff out it's egregiously, it's stupid, okay? It's just really dumb. I don't like the idea whatsoever. I get it. Bungie has to make their money. It's just really dumb, okay? There's plenty of games out there that don't do this. I don't know why this game has to be the one that does. Now, moving on from that, there are some exceptions to transmog that Bungie talks about. Things like exotic armor not being able to be transmogged. I mean, just think about it. You're playing Trials of Osiris, and you have no idea what exotic the other person on the other team is using. You know, they could be using Wormhusk or Bacchus, and you wouldn't know it, you know, at a visual glance before they actually do something with said exotic, and then it's too late. So I totally understand that. And they also say that year 1 armor ornaments from things like Curse of Osiris, Prestige Raids, Warmine are not going to work because of technical issues. Let's say that you have a Crucible ornament from Curse of Osiris, you will be able to use that ornament if you have a Crucible armor piece on, but otherwise you will not. So Vanguard, Crucible, Iron Banner, Faction Rallies, Prestige Raids, Trials of the Nine, any of those ornaments will not work with other armor pieces that are not, you know, where they're actually from, like a Crucible armor piece, Iron Banner armor piece, or a Prestige Raid armor piece. Now, they also said that the base appearances for the 2018 and the 2019 Solstice gear can in fact be transmogged, but the glows themselves that come along with the gear cannot be transmogged. Those armor sets were not built in mind with this new transmog system, so you're not exactly able to slot the glows into an already socketed armor piece. You know, it kind of makes complications. This kind of sucks in my opinion. I did not play those Solstice events, but I know that if you did, those armors, they looked really good, okay? And the only reason they looked really good was mainly because of the glows. It kind of takes away the entire purpose, in my opinion. But like I said, I haven't played those events personally, was never around for those. So if you did, in the comments down below, feel free to let me know how you feel about this change. Now, the only other thing that they really talk about is they talk about Eververse and they talk about shaders. So as far as Eververse is concerned, they say that you can buy Synthweave for 300 silver per, or a bundle of 5 for 1,000 silver, which actually comes out to 500 silver cheaper than if you were getting a universal ornament set. Because if you buy a bundle of 5, you get a full armor set, you know, you get 5 armors, and a universal ornament set, you know, costs 500 more, yada yada. So they are trying to be a little bit better on that front, and you guessed it, by the way, there is no limit on how much you can buy from the Eververse, yet there is from how much you can grind, so just saying. Lastly, they talk about shaders and things like we already knew about. If you guys have been watching my videos, they talk about how shaders are no longer consumables and they are permanent unlocks. Applying shaders is still going to cost Glimmer for some reason, but they're also going to be giving us a feature to allow us to apply one single shader to all of our armor pieces at once, which is pretty cool. And because of shaders not being consumable, they say that they're going to up the price of shaders in Eververse from 40 to 300. Which I think is really stupid. I don't really see the correlation there. Like, I don't get the point. Why would you up it from 40 to 300? I think we all know why, but it just doesn't make sense for me personally. Now, that is pretty much everything in the TWAB. That's pretty much all the news that we have concerning transmog and of course the Nightfall stuff that I talked about. So what exactly is my personal opinion? I'll give you my own personal stance, and then I'll give you my general stance for how I feel about it in general. So personally, this is a good system for me, as someone that doesn't change their looks that often and likes to keep their Guardians looking one particular way. For me personally, this is fine, especially considering next season we're going to be able to unlock 4 armor sets per class. that's fine for me. Now, every season after that being 2 armor sets per class, okay, that's kind of dumb, in my opinion. I mean, the fact that we have a limit in general is kind of dumb, but it doesn't affect me personally as much. Now, my general opinion is that this is dog shit. Transmog for me was actually going to be something that I look forward to. It's actually going to be a bit of a side hustle, you know, even if I'm not using the armor pieces, just grinding them out and unlocking all these ornaments just in case maybe one day I want to use them with another armor piece that comes out in the future. You know, I thought that was going to be a fun little thing for me to do in between raiding or doing dungeons or Crucible or whatever. Now I can't do that because we're being limited, yet I'm gonna have to drop, you know, tons of money on Eververse if I want to actually be able to do that in a timely fashion. So I think that Transmog in general, the system that they have going here, where you earn these different materials and you transfer them into these materials and then eventually you're able to transmog, you know, that's a cool system that you can grind out, but the fact that we're limited in that grind is really dumb. It's dumb as hell. I don't really like it. I think Transmog, you know, at its core is fine, but my god, limiting our grind is a terrible idea, Bungie, and that's my opinion on it. But guys, that is it for this video. Let me know what you all thought down in the comments down below. What are your opinions on Transmog? How do you think Bungie's handling the situation? Sound off in the comments, because Bungie isn't going to change anything unless they get our feedback. And before you say Bungie doesn't listen, look what they did with sunsetting. But guys, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.